what would you do today if you were brave? The first time I did a sermon, and that song was sung as the opening, I got up and I said, and this was 6 years ago, and I said, oh, if I were brave, I'd do this without notes. And I ripped them up and threw them away and did the sermon without my notes. Today, that's no big deal. Right? We build courage by doing it, right? We build courage by being it. And it's a muscle like everything else. And at the same time, there's always seems to be another step we could take, or another mountain in front of us. And no matter where we are in our lives, from joy to the oldest one of us in the room, and I'm not going to point you out, unless you want to be, is the opportunity to keep keeping on, to keep keeping on, because we're not done. We're so not done. A couple weeks ago, I talked to you about the big leap, how to move from where you are in your life into a bigger pond or bowl, how to move past your own glass ceiling, your own self-imposed glass ceiling, right? The choices you've made and the things you believe are keeping an upper limit on what you can achieve. And I talked about, for those of you who aren't here, I talked about it from my own perspective, how when I looked at my life and some of the amazing things that I did achieve, what was really startling was how I sabotaged them all. Right? In pattern after pattern, I had some triumph and then some period of setback and resetting back to what I can now see was my comfort level. That I had pushed myself so far into a realm that I felt like I didn't know where I was or how to operate in that. And something deep within me kept making me go backwards, hide, if it were. Go back to where it's safe. Don't put yourself out there. Because I don't know about you, but there's a lot of voices in our world that tell you, you're too big for your britches. Well, I grew up in the South. So you're too big for your britches, right? Or, who do you think you are? What made you think you could do that? Those voices, while we can intellectually dismiss them, they get embedded in our lives. And there's some ways that we can shift that. There is some ways. And one of the ones that I talked about earlier too was discerning and living in your divine purpose. But what I ask you is, what is it that keeps you from taking your big leap? Just think for a second. If the first thing that comes up may be it, but what is it that keeps you from doing that project you've always known is yours to do? From seeking that job, from joining that dating site, from whatever it is. What is it that may keep you? If you can refocus that into living on purpose, so living in your purpose, I think the ebb and flow of everyday life gets neutralized. You can remember that it's not my job to achieve, it's my job to be. Right? So achievements may peak and then crest. You may find yourself in a place that is too high for you to maintain. But if you're living on your purpose, that is what you're here really to do in life, not what you're supposed to achieve, but what you're supposed to do. And there's a subtle difference in that. It's easier to maintain that. For me, my purpose is I am dedicated to joyfully teach, demonstrate, and inspire truth, wholeness, and abundance. So I have no choice but to show up on Sunday. And trust me, this is not easy all the time. It's so funny. Even though if I'm brave, I tear it up. And it may look easy because I enjoy it, but it is scary too. Because I am committed to being excruciatingly vulnerable in front of you. To tell you the truth after I've processed it, not before, but to tell you the truth of my spiritual journey, right? And that is and can feel extremely raw and scary. And so I ask you, what is your purpose? Because when you know what your purpose is, no amount of fear can keep you from it. So even if I stand up here and lay a big egg today, I'm here doing my purpose. Whether I'm successful or not, I'm here doing my purpose. Right? It's coming up to Easter, so maybe it's time to lay some eggs. That's what you said. Yeah, there's a whole talk about why are eggs coming out of a bunny.
It's a miracle.
Just doesn't make any. It's an Easter miracle. There's another talk. I digress. So, there is a quote that I keep running across in my readings, in my life, in my work, and I've shared it with you before, but it's been a long time. And it's from Theodore Roosevelt, of all people. And it's called the Man in the Arena quote. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the one who is actually in the arena, the one whose face is covered in dust and sweat and blood, and who strives valiantly, although they may err, because there is no achievement without error. The man who stumbles, the woman who stumbles over and over again. The credit belongs to the one who strives to do the deeds, who struggles valiantly, who knows great devotion and great enthusiasm. The credit belongs to the one who tries, who may know, if they're lucky and successful, the pleasure of great triumph. And if they fail daring greatly.
Bravo.
They fail daring greatly. When you get to the end of your life, do you want to know that you took the safe path or that you dared greatly and failed? Because in truth, the failure is just as valuable. Just as valuable as the success, sometimes even more so. When you are willing and courageous, if you are brave enough to look at the failure, to look at the lesson, to look at the understanding that it can bring into your life. As Oprah Winfrey says, fool, I'm just trying to tell you to get on a different path. That's maybe not yours to do, right? When we can breathe into that understanding and live differently. But what happens, I've noticed in our lives, is that there's a critic. That quote is beautiful, and I understand it, and I know it, but those critics' voices don't seem to go away from me. I don't know about for you, but they don't disappear from me. In fact, they look somewhat like this most of the time. So, yeah, always going on. Right on my shoulder, there they are, once again. So, one of the things that I'm inviting our Absolute Abundance class to do, and I'm inviting us all to do, is to step into the arena. Whatever your version of the arena is, I want you to step into it today. And really interestingly, I want you to invite your critics in. Now, my arena looks something like this. Of course, coming from theater, mine looks like a set from Phantom of the Opera. Your arena may look more like a living room. Right? It may be your classroom. It may be your personal space with you and your family. But whatever your arena is, I invite you to invite in your critics. Because what I've discovered is they're there anyway. Those voices are still inside of you. They have become part of your shape. And pretending that they're not there doesn't do you any good. But just to leave a seat for them. Leave a seat for the Simons in your life. Right? Maybe that's why we don't go on American Idol. Right? To face that, but save a seat for them, because you know they exist in your life. If it's not Simon, it's someone who's like them, right? Or it might be the Dowager Countess from Downton Abbey, right? I love Maggie Smith, and I've always wanted to say lines like that. So she's definitely in one of the boxes in my world. But they also be maybe your mom and dad, right? Either or. Mom and dad probably have somewhere a space. They're the ones who said, "Are you getting too big for your britches?" Right? That can't be done. You'll never make a living doing that. Dads, don't say that to your kids. Right? When I told you before, when I first decided to become a minister, even in my 40s, my father looked at me and said, "But there's no money in that." I was like, "Dad, it doesn't go away. It doesn't leave your critic's box." Right? There's also your coworkers. You know, those nasty coworkers. I don't know if I'm the only one who's ever had them, but the ones who look at you sideways. Yeah, I call the guy there that's the mansplaining guy. Right? And the other one's the tiger mom. Okay, it's like, you failed. Let's embrace our stereotypes, okay? So this becomes your critic's boxes, right? You're in the arena, and these become the voices that you're most scared of, that keep you from playing. Well, they're gonna be there. Because guess what, guys? You cannot do anything in this world without people criticizing. You can't do anything. Someone will have an opinion about what you're doing and how you could do it better. Right? Yeah. What I've heard, and I'm taking as my new own mantra, is that you are perfectly welcome to your criticism, to your feedback. But I choose not to take it from people who aren't in the arena also. I choose to take it gladly from the people who are trying and struggling in doing what I'm doing, trying to make a difference, or doing whatever it is that I'm setting about that day. From other parents, from other ministers, from other people who are willing to admit where we fall short, but that we're daring greatly. Those are the people I want to hear from. But if you're just going to sit in the box and snipe, go ahead. I know you're going to do it. It's okay. It's all right. It's doing something for you. Right? So that understanding, again, has been allowing me to shift into more comfort, more understanding of how to stand in my own truth, my own understanding, and my own authority. Oh, huh. Yeah. The ordination, the licensing, wasn't enough. I have to own it. Whatever it is you've been in your life, whatever you've achieved, you have to still stand in your authority every day. Stand in your age, stand in your gender, stand in your sexual orientation, stand in your race, stand in your dream. Yes, thank you. Your dream. And own it. Own it. And there's a way that you can also use your arena to help with that too. So we've talked about the critics. Let's get rid of them. Right? Let's put the critics away for a moment. But understand what they really represent. What those critics really represent is our idea and our really, really strong belief in scarcity. Right? Scarcity, that there's not enough. Not enough time, not enough resources, not enough knowledge that I have, not enough knowledge about how we're going to make this work. The idea of scarcity petrifies us and isolates us. Right? And we all believe, on some level, I ask you to really look at it, what is it that you believe that there's not enough of? Money? Time? Wisdom? People? There's not enough people who believe what I believe. There's not enough people in San Francisco who would like this. There's not enough people who are being interested in seeing what I do or being part of mine. There's not enough mates, right? That great story that has been propagated for the last 30 years that there's not enough available men for the women in the world, right? I read a story recently about someone who was talking about that with their therapist, and they said, oh, well, I don't need millions, I just need one. I just need the one, right? I'm not looking to date millions of men, I just need one. So that the idea of scarcity took on a new track for them. Comparison. Oh boy, is that one that just like gets you. It's like in 12-step programs we say, you know, when you compare, you despair. I'm not as talented as they are. Oh, they do a better job at this. Oh, she's better at this. He's better. Ooh, I'm not as whatever. Fill in the blank. Right? Talented. Knowledgeable. I'm not as pretty. I'm not as handsome. I'm not as young. I'm not that. But that's that voice, right? And it goes on. It spins in our heads. And no matter what, as Robert Brummett says, and I quote here all the time, putting affirmations on top of these feelings is like putting icing on stale bread and calling it cake. Right? It's still just stale bread with some Pillsbury icing on top of it. You must look at this stuff. You must pull it up, examine it in all its painful ugliness to be free of it. And this basically goes on to, you know, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to do this. There are people who are better. It's still part of comparison. But I'm not good enough is something that I think each and every one of us feel and have felt on some level. Hopefully less and less and less. But the real battle is toxic shame. And shame is boiled down this way, from the definition from Brene Brown, the researcher. It's like, guilt is, I did something wrong. Shame is, I am wrong. I am wrong. And it shows up in many, many different ways in your life, but I want to show you how it can become part of your consciousness without you being aware of it, and how this exercise of stepping into the arena you can use to let yourself loose of all of these beliefs, what these seats get filled with. So I invite you to do this, to understand, as Brene Brown talks about again, as children we found ways to protect ourselves from vulnerability, from being hurt, diminished or disappointed. We put on armor, and we used our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors as weapons. And we learned how to make ourselves scarce, even to disappear. I better not speak up, because Mom won't like that. I better not tell him what I really think, because I'll be punished. I'll be sent away. I better not call out the truth that's going on in this house, because they don't want to hear it. And so we find a way to hide, and then we turn our thoughts and our dreams and our goals into weapons that we slash other people with. All those people who are the critics in your life, who are filling up those boxes, have just used their own disappointments to turn them into weapons. And they're using them right back on you again in this never-ending circle of weapons. So, to loosen this, I went back to my childhood. And then back into the arena, and found the pictures. That's me.
Haven't changed a bit.
That's me. But I love the curl on the top of my head. And God, that was adorable. I was absolutely adorable. But that's not my experience of it, because my brother and I are 11 months apart. My brother is 11 months older than I. And when I was born to my mom at 21 years old, I was a handful. Right? For a 20-year-old, 21-year-old who also had a 1-year-old. And that was a lot. So I heard a lot in those years that I was no angel. You are no angel. You are no angel, was the constant refrain. So I got the message really clearly that I wasn't worthy. And part of me believed it. Part of me understood it. Then at this age, which, right? It's like, I look at that picture today and go, God, how cute that little boy was. So here I am at like 6, I think. I think this is my picture at 6 years old, and right after this picture was taken, with all that light in my eyes and that same smile on my face, that I got sent to therapists because my parents couldn't figure out why I was so different. Well, duh, I'm gay. Now. But at the time, I was sent because there was something wrong with me, I was told. And I was sent to the therapist, and nothing traumatic or awful happened, but this little message was really well received. So there's something different, not quite right about you. We're going to figure this out. Right? So I don't see myself smile like that again, although here I am right after that, as I became an altar boy. And I put this one up specifically because here I am, a minister now, and I ran away from this image and this understanding that I was a spiritual being even as a child. And that was my rightful place, to be in the altar and to be a messenger and a server of divine ideas. And I want to remember that. So that little boy is going into my box as well. And then, of course, there's the tragic teenage years, where we all feel so awkward. Yes, I actually wore that tuxedo to prom, with that Farrah Fawcett hair. Yep, it was the 70s, I can tell you. So yes. He needs to be in my tube. So this is my favorite. This is the lost years when I moved to California and decided I really needed to be a platinum blonde. Yes, all those wild, crazy ideas need to be in there too, because this represented that I wasn't being seen or acknowledged or welcomed or known. And I had to do something to shake it up. So a bottle of bleach later, there I was. Still blonde. So I found this picture and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was 10 years ago. And laugh. And I'm sure you all have these same pictures in your archives of you with the haircut that you wish you didn't have. But one of the people that we really need to have in this is our soulmate, our partner, whoever that may be for you. And we forget, because they're with us all the time, that they are so in your corner, and they love you and support you, not in spite of your flaws, but actually because of them. That they see them, and they know them, and they honor them, and they're there to help you. So it may be your mom, it may be your dad, it may be your partner. It is for me, right? That person is in your corner for a reason. And that reason is not superfluous. That reason is because they really know you. They know who you are. And to not invite them into your box is ridiculous. Into your arena is ridiculous. Invite you to create with them your own, what I call kitchen cabinet. Those group of people, those kids that you were, and those people that are in your life today that you need to make that big leap, to take the step forward and to make a positive change in the world. I'm going to go back a slide because I forgot to say this. All of these kids, all of them, when we abandon them, believe what we decided was the truth, that those moments from infancy all through, what we're doing is orphaning those children. We're leaving them abandoned, right? And in this moment, we can go back and bring them back into our lives, to make them and to let them fill those seats, to let them have places of honor in our arena, so that as we go out in the world, we have the support of all of them to step forward. So your partner, your spouse, your biggest champion. And then also, co-mates. These are my two, Reverend Deanne and Reverend Karen, who I'd call and go, hey, am I losing my mind? Am I really off base here? And they'll tell you the truth. Did that suck? Yes. They'll say, yeah, it wasn't your best work. Yeah, you get to clean this up. Yeah, you're on the right track. How about trying it this way? Those kind of people to step into your arena so that you have this incredible kitchen cabinet ready to make you, to help you, to lift you through all those phases. And so achievement after achievement, you stay on target because you've built a team. A cabinet of people who can lift you to the next place, who can remind you that you're supposed to be living on your purpose. Not on the last achievement, not on the last thing you bought or the last job you had, or the title. What's your real purpose in this life? What are you here to do? Who are you here to be? Live in that, and then play in the arena with these people cheering you on. These people making a difference in every day of your life. 2 weeks ago, I asked you this. Are you willing to increase the amount of time every day that you feel good?
Yes.
That those critics aren't taking you out of your place of joy, that the sniping doesn't get to you, to the constant negative voices pattering in your head can be let go. If you're willing to do that, then spend time building and understanding your cabinet, from your little orphaned children to your champions here, right now. Are you willing to shift the patterns of unconscious living and self-sabotage that keep you from your big leap? Yeah. Ooh, wait. Am I willing to stop the patterns of self-sabotage? I did one yesterday. So for Lent, I've been cleaning out my closets. Right? I did Roma's, I've done mine, giving away tons of clothes. Wait till you see what I brought you, Nelson. There's tons of clothes for our clothing drive up there. And then it was half done. But it's like my pattern was okay, that's enough for today. I'll finish it next week. And next week will become next month. And next month will become next year. Right? Because there's more important things to be doing, which is sometimes true. And I knew it wasn't going to be this way. So I went to Lowe's and I bought new equipment and I redid the closet that I've been wanting to do the way I've been wanting to do it for 3 years. And finally yesterday, by the end of 7 o'clock at night, it was done. Am I willing to stop doing the things that sabotage me? Little and big. But there's no difference. There's no hierarchy in sabotage. Right? There's no hierarchy in unconsciousness. How do I choose to be conscious today? How do I let my champion say, you can do this. Take the time. Finish it. And are you willing to break through your self-imposed glass ceiling and live in your zone of genius? Now, what we talked about 2 weeks ago, for those of you who aren't here, is that we can all live in our zone of excellence, right? Something you know how to do. It feels really good to do it. It's just like smooth. You know you're the king of the world when you're living in your zone of excellence, right? I got this. Got it. Your zone of genius is where you don't know what you're doing, but you know it's where you're called to be. It's nowhere you're making it up as you go along because there's no roadmap, there's no blueprint for it. No one's done it before. How about that? You want to do something? You want to be present in the world like no one's ever been present before? Do you want to create something that no one's ever done before? Do you want to do something and do you hear the voices in your head going, ooh, wait, no. Hear your mom and dad? Do you want to create something that's never been experienced in the world before?
Yes.
Are you willing to live in your zone of genius? At least part of the time, to step into the arena consciously and live in that zone. Anybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm willing to. I'm willing to go further than I've ever gone before. I'm willing to step out where I don't know how it's going to happen. And see where life takes us. I don't know what this is. I don't know how to get to the big bowl, like that picture I showed at the beginning. But I'm willing to try. And I'm willing to fail daring greatly. I'm willing to fail daring. Let's take that to our time of meditation.